All right, we are back. Very special Bayou time and very privileged to have the Chief Judge right here in Terrebonne Parish, Randall L. Bethancourt, Division E. And he's earned his stripes. He's the Chief Judge here in the parish. Good to see you, Judge, as always.
Good to be here, Martin. Good to see you.
It's been a long run having you. Once we tease each other a lot about you being our humanities teacher, but just for the record, if you would have chose to stay in that profession, you would have won as many awards doing that as you have judged, because you were really meticulous about, and you were passionate about what you do, just like you are
Well, you're
as
kind.
judge.
Yeah, you're kind. You know, teachers, I love teaching, and I give accolades to all teachers. Teachers have a very hard job, and teachers, the good ones, and most are good teachers, you can see the passion. And you can remember those teachers through the years that you had through the years that were good teachers because they were passionate. They cared about you and they cared about their subject matter and getting that message over to you. So
Well, you made it
yeah,
fun. You made it a good
fun.
time.
Yes, indeed.
And as judge now, you know, you have light moments in your courtroom. I've seen you before, but that's, you know, the courtroom is a place of seriousness. And in order to have a good courtroom, you need people who are going to want to come and serve on jury duty and volunteer and do different things. And I know you're making a push now to educate the public on, hey, we need you. If you're going to live in the parish, help us out.
Yes, exactly right, Martin. Thank you very much for having me on for that very purpose. So it seems to me through the years, I've discovered that when people receive a summons for jury duty, in Terrebonne Parish in particular, because that's where I know the people, it's a cause for concern, alarm. Some freak out, you might say, and they don't have an idea of what to expect. And I can understand that. What they think they know about jury duty service, they know from TV, from movies and so forth, or from word of mouth. And so a lot of what they heard or see on TV may be accurate, but in Terrebonne Parish, it's not quite so much in as long as they might think they have to serve. So I wanted to come on TV once again to your station and tell people what they can expect once they get that jury duty summons in the mail. All right,
And
so
once
what to
the
expect.
panic is over,
Yeah.
what the real factor is.
Yes, absolutely, positively.
All right.
It's not as bad as they think.
So walk us through it. What would the normal progression be?
Okay, well, first of all, people want to know, how do they get to call me at random? You know, how
What
do
their
I get
qualifications
that?
are.
Yeah, how do I get that summons? The jury pool is made up of citizens from Terrebonne Parish, randomly selected by the clerk.
Okay.
And the way the clerk gets those names are from two basic sources: the voter registration rolls. So if you have registered to vote in Terrebonne Parish, she has your name. She gets those names from the registrar of voters.
Right.
And then the other way she gets names is those who have driver's license or who have ID cards. All right, so she gets those names. She combines them. It's all done by computer. All right, puts all those names in the database, and then for each case that we need jurors, they randomly take from that pool of names, 100 of those names get pulled for a particular jury, for a particular trial.
Sure.
So that's how we get your name. That's how you get.
So if you're not registered to vote and you don't have a driver's license, you're slacking in at least two areas.
Well, we don't know about you, that's for sure.
Right.
You're flying under the radar, as they say. And so, no, we don't know about you. So, so that's how she gets the names. And I say she, Teresa Robichaud, of course, is our clerk of court. And then, once she gets those names, the sheriff sends out an invitation, so to speak, your jury duty summons. It's mailed to the address of record. So the address that you gave the driver's license place, or the address that you gave the voter registration. So they'll send you a letter. You've been selected to serve as a juror for division A, B, C, D, or E. We have 5 divisions in Terrebonne Parish on such a date, such a week. And so we
You
inform
mentioned
you.
him picking 100. Is it 100 for A, 100 for B, 100 for C?
Good question. So we pick them per trial that we're going to have per judge. All right. So in Terrebonne Parish, we pick them per division. All right.
Okay.
So 100 is 100 for this particular trial for Judge Bethancourt in a criminal case. Maybe another 100 the following week on a civil case. And at the same time, another judge may have another case going on at the same time. So they'll call another 100 for that particular judge in that division. All right, so it's not unlikely that we may have 200 or 300 people show up for jury duty on a Monday, 100 for this judge, 100 for that judge, 100 for another judge. So that's the way
So
it
the
works.
logistics of that, before we go to the second segment, it takes a lot to keep all that organized.
It does. So you got to imagine the people that are involved. You have obviously the clerk's office that has to send out all the notices. The sheriff's office actually is the one that sends out the notice, actually. And then we have a judicial administrator whose number is on that jury summons. If you have a question, you have a problem, call this number. He's the judicial administrator. So he administers the problems that people may have in coming to serve jury duty. So yeah, it takes a
And just
little
going to the
army.
break, we'll come back, talk some more, but you don't need a ball gown or a tuxedo to appear in court.
Absolutely
But you
not.
got to dress appropriate.
Yeah, sure. You want to dress like you would go to church or something like that. Yeah,
Right.
appropriately.
That's a good,
Although we have some people that don't.
they coming in flip-flops and all?
Absolutely.
And I guess
Slippers in pajamas sometimes.
we'll have to talk more about that in the second segment. We'll be right back. They'll go away. Today's social media segment is brought to you by Terrebonne General Health Systems, modern technology, and timeless caring. Rouse's, you're either local or you're not. Buick, the craft of modern luxury. St. Martin and Bork, know your rights. All right, we're back with Judge Randall L. Bethancourt. You know, I say Randall L. We've been calling him that for years. Randall L. Bethancourt. He's the chief judge here in Terrebonne Parish. And what's the L stand for?
Leon.
Leon.
It's a family name.
There you go.
So, right, yes,
A little
yes.
trivia for the audience.
There you
today.
go. That's right.
All right, so we were talking before. I've had people come in for job interviews, and you know I'm old-fashioned at this point, and they come in with flip-flops, cut-off shorts where it's still a little raggedy on the bottom, but I was even talking to the police chief the other day. He said he's relaxed his things on beards and facial hair and things of that nature. Do you find as a chief judge you want them to dress a certain way, but they're gonna maybe they don't have the means?
Right. So, Martin, it goes for anyone that goes to a courtroom or courthouse for business in the courts. So there actually are some rules to follow. Actually, technically, you're supposed to dress according to your means and according to the court decorum.
Mm-hmm.
That doesn't mean you have to wear a tuxedo or coat and tie. It means that, be appropriately dressed, have clean clothes on.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, work clothes are permitted. Let's say you're getting off of work and you're showing up to court and you got to go back to work.
Right.
Work clothes are perfectly okay.
Yeah.
That's all right. Some people kind of, stretch that and they'll wear slippers or pajama bottoms and so forth. You kind of work with people, you want them to come to court to testify if they're there as a witness or for jury duty. All right, but you got to remember, it's a serious place. I tell people generally dress like you would dress when you go to church. That's a good rule of thumb. Or how would you dress when you go to school? That type of thing.
Then a few people say, I dress like that. I've seen people in the supermarkets with pajamas now, a lot more than I ever saw.
Right.
So I guess that's
It's a
the new
sign of the
norm.
times, I
Yeah.
think, Martin. You wouldn't find that 30 years ago, 40 years ago. You'd have people coming to court wearing coats and ties, by and large. But it's a sign of the times.
But what happens when you don't have enough people show up?
Very good. Very good question. So, as I said, we generally call about 100. So if we know it's a case that might require a lot of people that might know about it, so we might ask the clerk to, instead of calling 100, call 150. All right, so generally, unfortunately, and that's one of the reasons I'm here. So let's say we call out 100 people, 100 invitations went out, 100 summonses went out. Sometimes we only get maybe 60 that show up, 70 that show up of the 100. Now, some have moved, some have wrong addresses, and so some just downright don't come. All right. So we wind up maybe having 60. We got to pick a 12-person jury out of 60 people, and that's challenging because each side has various reasons they can request people not serve, and then by law, as we're going to get to in just a bit, you have to have certain basic requirements. And so of the 60 that show up, let's say, or 70, or hopefully 100, but that's not going to happen. From them, then you have to weed out the ones that showed up that do not have the basic minimum requirements.
And out of 60, it's a challenge to get 12?
So on a 12-member jury, let's say a criminal trial or a felony trial, all right, so you have each side gets 12 peremptory challenges. So each side can dismiss a juror with their peremptory challenges. Just didn't like the way they answered a question, didn't like the answers to the questions. They can basically say but they have 12 of those strikes, so to speak.
Okay. Right.
Now, before you get to that, we have what you call challenges for cause. That means that they don't meet the basic requirements. So let's say you have these people show up, and I'm asked to put slide 1 on, juror qualifications. So there you go. These are the basic requirements to serve as a juror in Terrebonne Parish. All right, so every juror, whether it's a civil case or criminal case, you have to have these requirements first, okay? So you have to be a citizen of the United States and a citizen of Louisiana, okay? If you're not qualified to serve. And you have to have lived in Terrebonne Parish consecutively for 1 year, for at least 1 year. So you start from today back. So you've lived continuously, consecutively in Terrebonne Parish for 1 year. If you lived in Lafourche Parish 6 months ago and just moved to Terrebonne, you're not qualified. You cannot serve. All right, so that's one of the requirements. Then you must be at least 18 years old. Generally, that's not a problem because we get them from the voter registration and the DMV.
Voting age.
Able to read, write, and speak the English language. You got to remember, some people cannot read or speak English. We have a high population of Spanish-speaking people, and so we have to make sure they can read and write the English language. Generally, the lawyers are going to be speaking English. Generally, if there are documents that are going to be made part of the evidence, they're in English. So we have to make sure they're able to read that kind of thing.
Okay.
The next one are more specific. So you can't be under interdiction. Interdiction is a legal declaration signed off by a judge. You've gone through this process, and the judge has declared that you're not able to manage your own legal affairs. So it's after you've gone through a hearing. So if you're under interdiction, you can't serve if you've been interdicted. And if you have some type of mental or physical problem. Now, that always leads to a hand or two going up of those that are sitting in that jury box.
Might lose 99 and 100.
Well, some people have some problems sitting.
Yeah, right.
They have a hard time. If they sit for a long period of time, their back starts to hurt, or they may have some kind of a health problem that they think might
Anything
make
that could be ADD.
Unable to serve, because they won't be able to sit still or sit, comfortably. So you need to tell us about them.
All right, and then, of course, we have number 6, under indictment, incarcerated, under an order of imprisonment.
Or imprisonment for the last 5 years. So it used to be if you had any kind of felony conviction, you couldn't serve, but the law was changed. So if you're under indictment, that means you've been charged with a felony but not tried yet, you can't serve. Incarcerated under an order of imprisonment or on probation or parole for a felony within the last 5 years, you can't serve.
Let's hold that thought. We'll take a short break, and we'll have our last segment coming up with the Chief Judge of Terrebonne Parish, Judge Randall L. Bethancourt. Don't go away. Today's social media segment is brought to you by South Louisiana Bank. It's better when we bank together. Waits and Downer, attorneys at law. Terrebonne Ford, built Ford tough. All right, we're back with Chief Judge Randall L. Bethancourt, Division E, here in Terrebonne Parish, trying to get people interested, serve on the jury, help out. And let me ask you, is there an age limit where somebody turns a certain age, they can't do it anymore?
Good question, Martin. Yes, in Louisiana, if you're 70 years old or older, you're exempt from jury duty. And so it's not automatic, though. So if you're 70 and you get your jury duty summons, you can call the judicial administrator. There's a number to call when you get that summons. And by the way, that's a very important number. So if you think there's a reason why you ought not have to serve, when you get that summons, call the judicial administrator. His number's on there, and tell him, look, I'm 70 or older, or I'm disabled, or I have a doctor's appointment, or I'm going on vacation that week, whatever. Call that number, and we'll work with you.
Or I'm 70 and I'd love to serve.
You can serve, absolutely. So it's a choice. That's your choice. So if you're 70 and otherwise you want to serve, you can serve. So it's your choice. So it's, as I said, it's not automatic. So just don't not show up, because we will think you're missing in action. All right.
Now you have another one, there's a voir dire. I've always said that's a fancy name.
Yeah. So that's an old French term meaning speak the truth. So once you are summoned, and we pick panels of 18 in my division. So we pick 18 of you in my division. Some judges do more, some do less. We bring you upstairs to the courtroom, and then you're questioned by the court and the lawyers. And simply, we just want to know a little bit about you. We don't know you. So the lawyers want to know a little bit about you. So we start by giving, your name, your age, number of, what kind of work you do, where do you live in Terrebonne, what part of Terrebonne Parish you live, what kind of work you do. Do you work? Are you retired? Are you married? Does your spouse work? How many kids you have? We just want to know a little bit about yourself, because we don't know you. And then from there, the lawyers have the opportunity to ask other questions about you, maybe pertaining to that particular case, because they want to find out if you're going to be the right juror for this particular case. And that's the only reason for it's not trying to be nosy or anything. You got to remember, the lawyers are looking at the interest of their clients. So they want to have the right kind of person on their jury for their client. So they have the right to ask certain questions.
If you have a welder that got hurt and it's a civil trial, he may be looking for a welder.
There you go. Exactly right. They'll understand the welding, the occupation as a welder, that kind of thing. So it's not to be nosy. A lot of people think you're digging into my business. Well, somewhat we are. They are. The lawyers are. However, the purpose of it is to find out a little bit about you. After all, if you were on trial, you would want to know, a little bit about the people that could be deciding your fate. So one of the things I wanted to stress, Martin, is that two things. Number one, jury service in Terrebonne Parish generally lasts about a week, maybe 4 days, maybe a little bit less, generally. All right. Rare is the case where we have a trial that lasts more than a week. They do occur, but they're rare. Okay. So generally speaking, if you get served for jury duty, we know that you probably don't want to come, but you got to remember, it is a privilege, an honor, and it is part of being a United States citizen. The only two ways that I can think of right now that you, as an ordinary citizen, can take part in government: voting and jury duty. Now, you got to remember, jury duty is very important. If you're selected as a juror, you're going to be deciding that case. It's not going to be the judge. A judge on a jury trial, I'm just a referee. I'm just making sure both sides are playing fair and abiding by the rules of evidence. That's all a judge does. I will tell the jury what the law is that they're going to apply to the facts of this case. They find the facts, not the judge. So it's very important. It's very, very
important. Plus, I served for Judge Arsenal a long time ago in a jury trial. I made so many friends that I still see them today.
Kind of funny that you mentioned that, Martin, because people come reluctantly. Let's say they get picked to serve, and they're going to be serving together for 3 or 4 days. And by the way, in Terrebonne Parish, you're going to be going home at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon. All right, we break. You're not going to be sleeping in a hotel room or anything like that.
Right.
All right, you get to go home and you come back the next morning. We break for lunch. We break before lunch. We normally have a morning break and a lunch break and then an afternoon break. So we have a lot of time to get up and down. So you're going to have a lot of time to meet your fellow jurors. I can tell you that people reluctantly come, but when they serve, they're happy they did. They get it. They understand, and they're
they don't mind
get
being
it.
called again.
Well, that's right. Well, in Louisiana, actually, if you serve, you're exempt for 2 years.
Yeah.
So if you
Can
get
you
called
waive
within,
that? Can you waive that?
yes, you can. So
Okay.
if you get called within 2 years, you can call the judicial administrator. Look, I got called 2 years ago. I don't want to serve. Or let's say you liked it so much you want to serve again. You may.
Sort of like the blood drive. If
There
you
you
want to
go.
keep giving, you keep giving.
You may. That's right. That's right.
Chief Judge, good to see you again. Appreciate it. And just like you did in humanities, you came prepared. Instead of mimeograph paper now, you had the real stuff that we could put on TV. So always
Well,
good
thank
to
you
see.
for having
And thank
me.
you for keeping us abreast of this important
Anytime.
information.
And we want to make sure the citizens know jury duty service is not the kiss of death. It's actually a very interesting, rewarding experience. I can tell you, almost 100% of the time, people that serve, they're glad they did. They get it.
All right, Judge Randall L. Bethancourt, District E, heed. All right. See you later.
Division E. Yeah, there you go.